Good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, introducing QwickAnalytics to you, members of the North Dakota Bankers Association. We are very proud to be newly endorsed by the NDBA. So wanted to take a minute just to introduce to you to our offering, and then certainly entertain any questions that you might have. We will send you as a follow-up a link to today's recording, as well as a copy of the slide deck for your reference. My name is Sean O'Brien, the president of QuickRate. Many of you may know QuickRate. We kind of pioneered the non-brokered CD marketplace 35 years ago. I continue to help try to develop products such as QwickAnalytics for our members, as well as I serve on the board of a community bank in Illinois. So I'd like to think that we come at a lot of our solutions not only as a provider of services, but also a consumer of services as well. QwickAnalytics, as I mentioned, is one of the two new offerings that we have for our QuickRate subscribers. QwickAnalytics, as we're going to see, focuses in on a lot of publicly available and other data sources. And then also we have IntelliCredit, which we're not going to touch on here today, but we do provide third-party loan reviews and also cloud-based applications that we'll discuss a little bit later in the presentation. With both of these solutions, we'd like to think we help you solve issues because they are cloud-based. We really try to focus on areas where we can assist with aggregating data so you do not have to. One of the mantras that we really subscribe to is the fact that we want to aggregate data so you can analyze data. We feel like it's a better use of time for someone like us to aggregate and present data to you, and then you and your teams are able to analyze that data and then incorporate and develop, responses and strategies, at the bank based on that. QwickAnalytics, as you're going to see here this morning, is really comprised of a number of different offerings within one. We focus in on bank and peer performance tools. This is really where we got started with QwickAnalytics. So we'll allow you multiple ways to compare your bank to other banks. Again, one of our focuses is on absolute performance and relative performance. Secondly, we have interactive bank pages for every bank in the country. Our energy source here is the call report, and we take all that information and organize it in a way that we hope you can see, better understand not only your performance, but potentially other banks as well. And then finally, because of that call report information, we are able to, on occasion, develop regulatory tools to assist as well. We have a CECL solution that has been tremendously successful and popular with community banks. We organize, again, historical loss information for every bank and make the transition to CECL, very seamless. We also have a portfolio level credit stress test and liquidity report. So again, a lot of useful tools. We have an Excel add-in tool as well that we'll touch on. And really, again, where all this is coming from is we're aggregating multiple data sources into one cloud-based solution so you don't have to. So whether it's your call report, we also have credit union call report information if you want to keep eyes on any of those in your backyard. We do have public market information that we aggregate from a number of sources. We grab the summary of deposit data that you all complete as of June 30th. And then we also monitor and report back M&A transaction. Again, all designed just to make you more efficient and be able to access this information from one solution. So we're going to start, talking about the bank and peer performance in the interactive pages. So when a bank logs into our site, they will have a homepage similar to this one. We'll include a number of different links. Everything is designed to be very user-friendly. In other words, you can kind of point and click to where you want to go. So we spent a lot of time working on the user interface so that it can be as user-friendly as possible. So we also aggregate news feeds from the regulatory bodies, the St. Louis Fed, and then scrape the internet for additional sources. Down here in the circle, you can see we also have public market information for the 700 to 800 bank stocks that trade. We track those daily. This may be more just kind of ancillary information, but it'll show you how bank stocks that trade both on the NYSE and the NASDAQ, and then the over-the-counter markets are performing on a given day. So those are all readily available. In addition, this is something that, again, might be curious to you. With those 700 or 800 bank stocks that trade every day that have a ticker symbol, we're able to display for you what the tangible book values and book values are and just other valuation metrics. So you can get a sense every day just how bank stocks are being valued in the public markets. Again, it can be a good proxy for potentially how your bank would be valued if you ever decided to go to market with it or looking to acquire somebody. This will just give you a sense. You can certainly sort this by state and regions. So again, it just gives you an additional piece of information that typically would not be readily available to you. We do have a lot more M&A analysis as well on the homepage. Down here, you can see the link that we, again, will aggregate and show you the most recently announced deals here at the bottom of the homepage. But then also, as well, we'll give you a longer running history of those deals. We'll show you the historical tally of deals by year. We'll show you some multiple trends on those deals themselves. But then within each deal, we will put together a little recap sheet here that will, again, show you metrics around, tangible book values, core deposit premiums paid, any interesting information about the deal, again, that, for transactions in North Dakota, might be of interest to you. We also, again, focus on, as I mentioned, the user experience. So we try to provide multiple ways for you to kind of consume information. Some of these start from the top down, which one of those is an example of Bank Universe at a glance, where we will allow you to quickly see all the information about a particular state. So for instance, we'll list out all the bank names here in a state, in this example from the state of Maine, and you can, kind of scroll through and just see some overview information about every institution. You can sort these high to low, low to high, and then you can also immediately export them to Excel for your own consumption. So again, just gives you a quick way if you want to just see every bank in a particular state. This gives you a quick way to do that. As I mentioned, as of June 30th every year, banks complete the summary of deposit data. This typically becomes available in September, mid-September, but we display that information for you as well. So you can not only see in your own market, your market share, but also, again, if you're looking to expand into another market, you can see who the key players are. And you can see these market shares not only on an annual basis, but over a longer term trend. So this is, again, just gives you, at the end of the day, for most of us, the most valuable piece of our franchise is our deposit franchise. Seeing how that compares and how we rank within the counties where we have offices is always useful and important to know. As I mentioned, you can kind of click around and see the individual banks. You can also, these little boxes will allow you to drop banks into a peer group. We are big believers in peer group creation. We'll touch on that in a little bit as well. But we do try to provide multiple ways to make it very easy for our banks to add banks to custom peer groups that they might want to utilize. In addition, we have another quarterly report that we do both at the state and national level. You'll see the acronym quite a bit within QwickAnalytics of QCBI. It stands for the QwickAnalytics Community Bank Index. What we've tried to do here is, again, focus attention on the community bank sector. So we use as our starting point the definition the FDIC utilizes for community banks. But we wanted to make a distinction because when the FDIC releases information, it's often based on averages. Well, in the banking industry, averages are going to be swamped or kind of dictated by the largest banks' performance. We want banks to be able to kind of focus in on community bank performance. So we separate out those larger banks and present performance information for the community bank space. We focus on medians more so than averages, so you can always kind of see the midpoint of performance and see whether, again, the bank's above or below those in a number of different metrics. But this is a report that you can access through QwickAnalytics every quarter. Again, you can choose to do it at the state level or the national level, and it'll immediately generate that report, for you. In addition to a lot of industry information, then obviously we want you to be able to drill down into your bank's information. So if you think about it, a little bit like a funnel, right? We start very broadly and then continue to work down so you can see as detailed of information as you might like. So in our solution, you can click on your My Bank tab, and that's going to take you to a more in-depth page about your bank. You can see here to the left, underneath the financial performance listing here, we've organized your call report information into a number of what we hope are helpful and thoughtful tabs. All of these can be clicked on and drilled down to see additional information. We've separated a section out on credit. Obviously, the call report doesn't provide a tremendous amount of information about credit, but what we thought we could show our users was how this information compares on a relative basis. Again, there's always two ways to look at numbers, and this is what we focus in on at QwickAnalytics. We want you to be able to see your numbers in absolute over time, so you'll always see 4 to 6 years of information. You can click and change to quarterly presentation, but then we also always want you to be able to see a quick comparison to a peer group, and so you can see your performance and provide some context to it around a relative comparison. So we'll show you, based on the peer group selected and the time frame selected, a peer median, and then where you rank within that peer group. Again, you don't have to do any of the work. All this will be calculated on your behalf. There are a number of reports that, again, you can access through the drop-down that you can run. So again, you can determine the level of granularity you want and the most effective presentation of information to others, within your bank. We typically, again, want to give you peer data. We also want you to be able to see information either on a quarterly basis, the last 12 months, year to date, the most recent quarter. So again, multiple presentations of the information, and then you're always able to export any of our pages, print them, export them to a PDF or Excel, or even to a PowerPoint slide. Now, as I mentioned, again, we want you to be able to see absolute performance over time. So again, all the pages will show 6 years of financial information if you choose the annual selection. But again, we want you to be able to see that comparison to a peer group. So again, we will always calculate the median value, and then we will show you the rank within that peer group, and then we will highlight in red or green if you are in the top or bottom quintile of a particular peer group. We provide you as a default setting your state QCBI peer group, your UBPR peer group, and then you obviously have the ability to create as many additional or useful peer groups as you would like. As I mentioned, again, a number of different tabs. Again, you can kind of click through them. With the addition of our IntelliCredit team, we've added a number of pieces here on credit. Asset quality is one, obviously, the most popular, where again, you can kind of see your asset quality numbers in absolute, but then also on a relative basis. At the top of every page where there's a link, you'll have the ability to customize the view of your graphs. These are all drop downs where you can select the graphs you want to see, and you'll always see those either with your numbers in blue and then the green number as the peer median. So constantly in front of you with your absolute numbers and the peer comparisons. In addition, again, while this is designed to be a very interactive solution, we understand there are plenty of times where you need or want an image or a hard copy. So all of these links to performance pages, you can select a report package and pick any combination of those to put those into a report. So you can quickly see, there's a couple of things. There's a tremendous amount of information available to you for which you have to really do nothing other than kind of be curious and click around. And then secondly, you're able to export this and utilize it or convey it within your institution or to other users in multiple fashions. Again, we are cognizant of the fact of the user experience, but also how this, within your bank, you may want to communicate information. Some people may like very detailed analyses. Others may like more summarized or concise presentations. So we've worked very hard to make sure you have a myriad of ways to present this in the most effective manner possible. This is an example of one of those more concise settings. So this is what we call the performance matrix. This again shows you a bank's information compared to a peer group, but rather than having a table full of numbers, we allow you to kind of see this in a one-page visual. So for instance, here on the left, you'll see a number of the same kind of overview metrics we saw on previous pages, but now it's presented in a one-page matrix where, again, we'll show you the peer median for, in this case, the community banks in Maine. You can see the peer median, you can see the top 20th percentile, you can see the bottom 20th percentile numbers, but then more importantly, you can see, in this case, where the bank's numbers are on this scale. So again, it kind of gives you a quick roadmap to seeing where the bank's really, strengths are, where their weaknesses are, and then obviously areas where there might be opportunities. I think it's important to always note red and green and blue and these different colors aren't designed to be good or bad. They're simply, again, a relative comparison, right? Some banks make strategic decisions about how they want to manage their balance sheet. For instance, here you could look at this and see this 65% loan to deposit or loan to asset, as a negative. But that might be a strategic decision by that board to not want to be above a certain percentage. So it's important to keep in mind as you're going through numbers, not only for your bank or other banks, these are just relative comparisons, right, to other banks within a peer group. So I think that's always important to recognize and understand. Furthermore, again, we have multiple reports. This is an example of a couple of pages out of what we call the Bank Performance Report Card. The Bank Performance Report Card is our oldest report. Again, it was designed before the interactive pages, but it was designed to, again, kind of quickly give a bank a summary of their performance compared to a peer group, but also show their absolute numbers. So again, just another example of how you can potentially present information or pull information from QwickAnalytics. The credit matrix is another example of a more summarized, concise comparison. Here, we show banks on, again, a relative basis, how they compare three different ways. Again, you can't see a whole lot about underwriting or credit within the call report. Obviously, good underwriting kind of table stakes, but again, you can see at least on a comparative or relative basis how your numbers compare to other banks. We think it's important because, again, understanding your appetite for risk, we really kind of break this down into three areas: current credit risk, portfolio risk, and capital and persistence power. And we want banks to understand on a relative basis how they compare in these three different areas. One of the reasons we think relative comparisons are very important is because we all know our regulators utilize the UBPR when they come to see us. So, while you may understand your numbers very well, we always make the point to say to an outsider, your numbers may tell a different story if you don't know all the information. And I think it's important to recognize, if you think about a regulator, they look at your UBPR numbers and how you compare to medians and with other banks within that peer group. And then typically when they come to see you, the first thing they do is ask for your board minutes, right? Part of the reason for this is they have an idea of what they think of what's going on at the bank from the UBPR, and then they can see what information is being shared or discussed with the board, further strengthening, their position of their viewpoint of the bank. We think it's important, as part of those ongoing relations with our regulators, to understand their viewpoint. And so to look at these numbers and see them on a relative basis is to understand how a third party might see your bank that may or may not agree with what you see how the bank's performing. But I think, having this common communication vehicle is an important way to make sure, we're having as effective relations with our regulators as possible. And so again, we think one of the reasons why we like the UBPR and these relative comparisons is because we know that's how third parties, such as the regulators, are looking at your bank. Another report we have is called Peer Watch Trends. Peer Watch Trends is actually my favorite report as a board member at our bank. This is a report that I share with all of our all of our directors on a quarterly basis. The reason I like it, as you can see at the bottom of this page, there are individual banks listed here. So oftentimes we may look at a peer group, it may be very large, say as a UBPR or a state peer group, but there's times for a bank like us where I want to just see the 10 or 11 banks that are in my backyard. And so this report allows you, and this is just one metric from that report, NIM, but it allows me as a director to see banks who are experiencing the same type of, market and economic conditions as we are. How are they performing either similarly or differently than our bank? And so it allows you to very quickly see both on a most recent quarter basis how the bank might compare. We can see it over a longer term trend, and then you can actually see the numbers. So again, this is my favorite report as a director. I think it's tremendously helpful when we're trying to understand our performance and how we're comparing to other banks in our area. And again, kind of highlights within our community, our strengths and weaknesses versus the most direct competitors, that we encounter. Now, I mentioned we are big believers in custom peer groups. We provide all of our users immediately as default settings, UBPR peer groups and state peer groups. However, you may want to create additional peer groups. You may already utilize custom peer groups at the bank today. We have a very, very good filtering process to create as many helpful and useful peer groups as you might want to create. The filters are allowed to do it at the bank or holding company level. And then we also give you the ability to screen whether it's simply typing in a bank's name to add it to a peer group, choose something by a region, county or state or zip codes. You can do filters by asset sizes, and then you can also do filters based on custom fields or metrics that you might want to, screen for. So again, a powerful tool to create as many helpful and useful, meaningful peer groups as you might consider. Another report that we have as part of QwickAnalytics involves liquidity. This is actually a template report that comes from the OCC. The bank I'm involved with in Illinois is an OCC regulated bank. These were a number of metrics that they asked us to monitor. So we decided to build a report within QwickAnalytics to capture those. So again, it'll highlight, some just very basic liquidity ratios. It will also capture some liquidity early warning ratios as well. Again, show you changes on a quarterly or yearly basis, as well as provide comparisons to a peer group. In addition, you'll see that some of these numbers are highlighted in red or green. We do those as a way to show you in yellow if you've had a significant change on a quarterly or annual basis, something again that might catch the eye of a third party such as a regulator. But we also allow you to drop in any of your own personal policy limits at the bank for these liquidity ratios. And if you are outside of them, then this report will highlight them in red. So again, just for a lot of banks, it's a simple report to include either in your ALCO packets or your board minutes to demonstrate to the regulators that you're sharing this important liquidity information with your board. In addition, many banks with their correspondents, need to do their annual Reg F due diligence. We've developed a number of different ways to help assist banks meeting that compliance standard. We have a simple report called the Reg F snapshot. We also obviously have in-depth pages on any of the correspondents you might work with, and then you can pull down as much or little information about your correspondent as you might need to. This is oftentimes a way for banks to consolidate providers. Again, oftentimes banks will pay for this type of service, but this would all be available to you through QwickAnalytics. Okay, so let's jump to the next area of focus here, regulatory compliance. This has clearly been the biggest catalyst for new subscribers this year in QwickAnalytics, our CECL solver tool. It is a portfolio-based solution utilizing the WARM methodology. Again, the significant and immediate value we bring to our banks is that we've organized all of your historical call report information into an offering that you can immediately access. If you think about CECL, depending on where you are in your adoption and transition process, you are obviously constrained by the information and data that you have available to do CECL analyses. This is a particular reason why the regulators focused and pointed banks towards call report based solution, because companies like us are able to aggregate that information and provide to you your historical information in a very quick and expedient manner. And that's exactly what we do. So we organize all of your historical call report information. We assist you with calculating the weighted average remaining maturities. For instances where you do not have loss or historical loss information, we are able to provide peer data as a supplement to that information. And again, allow you to meet the new CECL standard in a, what we think is a very anxiety-free approach. We are proud to be the choice for over 300 banks utilizing this as their CECL solution, and again have had tremendous response and success showing this and working this with our banks. We've made the transition easy. As I said, you're able to save and warehouse all your different scenarios on a quarterly basis. You're able to adjust and account for your Q factors, and then knowing that we will be updating the call report information every quarter, it really removes a burden of data analysis and aggregation on part of the bank. So if you haven't had a chance or are still undecided about a CECL solution, I would certainly encourage you to do a demo. We can do a demo with your data, and you can see our CECL solver and how it can assist you in meeting the new accounting standard. As I mentioned, because we have a lot of information, again, we allow our banks to account for their Q factors. We're able to show them their historical trends and then also provide some FRED data points. In addition, a area that is often talked about are the specifically reserved or individually assessed loans. We have functionality to address that and account for that as well. So again, we are really proud of our CECL solution. It is part of the QwickAnalytics solution. So I think that is of particular note that, you don't have to, when you subscribe to QwickAnalytics, you're going to get not only the CECL solution, but all these other tools and resources that we have probably in some ways overloaded you with this morning, but certainly want to make you aware of the tremendous value and depth of the offering that we are providing. Another regulatory tool that has been very popular with our users is an interactive credit stress test. Now, certainly since the financial crisis, in this benign time of credit experience we've all fortunately been experiencing, stress testing has really certainly been minimized. Certainly things change, and this will probably come back into vogue, particularly if we do enter a recession due to the rates rising by the Fed. But again, the OCC was a outspoken advocate for stress testing, particularly at the community bank level. However, they did do the favor of providing a template to community banks to accomplish and address this stress testing, and they suggested the use of call report information to address the test. As a result, this again gave us an opportunity to build something for all of our banks. So as a as a QwickAnalytics subscriber, we have essentially run a stress test on your data every quarter. We do allow you to customize our base scenario inputs, but again, this is something that banks will often run once a year, share it with their board, because the point of the test is to allow you to demonstrate to your board and to management what your capital cushion is at the bank. That's really the starting point for stress testing, is to identify what that capital cushion is and at what point might a bank need to seek out additional capital for the bank. From there, then obviously you might want to drill down into a particular segment of your portfolio or a part of your portfolio. But step one in stress testing is usually always best accomplished doing something at the portfolio level. We allow you to customize not only your loan portfolio, but again, because it is call report based and supported, we are able to provide you very quickly historical information, not only about your loss experience, but that of your peers. So we make the work necessary to do this analysis very, very straightforward. And again, really eliminates any work aggregating data on the bank's part. We always kind of show you the results, both in a summary and detailed fashion. So again, cognizant of who you might share this information with, you can always see information on a summary basis. If you want to dig into the details, you can. And then we break down the analysis by loss projections, earnings impact, and capital impact. So a pretty templated way to, again, kind of spoon feed this both internally and externally to either your board or even to auditors or regulators. Again, this is a very popular report. Some banks run it semi-annually. Most banks just simply run it annually. As I mentioned, the point of the stress test is first and foremost to identify what your capital cushion is. So how we do that is when we run the test, we essentially show you what, based on different loss scenarios, where the bank would breach either an internal capital target, a well-capitalized threshold, or an adequately capitalized threshold. And so it does give you a specific goalpost to consider that will identify that capital cushion, and then most importantly, when you might reach critically undercapitalized. Fortunately, since the financial crisis, this has really not been an issue for banks. But again, should we encounter any credit experience in the future, this again might surface to the top and be something that your regulators might be interested in you doing on a more regular basis. All right, so again, if this has not been enough, we have additional tools. The next one up is our capital planning tool. Again, this is a tool designed initially around the Basel transition, but our banks have enjoyed using it because it saves them a spreadsheet. The benefits of our tool is obviously the ability to forecast your capital out over a 5-year period of time. The ease of use that it allows you is that you're able to change any of the numbers in our tool, either by percentage or absolute dollars, and the entire tool will recalculate. So again, it eliminates the need for an Excel spreadsheet. We populate your numbers, and then again, you can manipulate them based on your own internal growth projections. But then what it will allow you to do is to see, based on those growth assumptions, whether the bank, will maintain where its capital ratios are, and if there's any opportunity for to be a deficit, with that capital. It will allow you to factor in capital raises should that be necessary. So again, all designed just to make something you're already doing hopefully a bit easier. Finally, we have, for those of you who maybe have used other tools like this in the past, we do have what we call an Excel add-in tool as well. So an Excel add-in tool effectively allows you to import any piece of call report information right into your own spreadsheet. So while we've developed QwickAnalytics to address a number of different ways through interactive screens and reports, if you simply would like to or prefer to have information in your own spreadsheet, this will allow you, once you've downloaded our add-in tool, it will put a QwickAnalytics selection up on your toolbar and then allow you to import over hundreds of fields, thousands of fields of call report information right into your own spreadsheet. You can also pull in other banks' information. You can pull in peer group information. You can also pull in credit union call report information. So this is, again, kind of a catch-all if you want to search or do research in any number of different ways. The Excel add-in tool is another way that you can do that. As I mentioned, you can search for banks. In this case, you can see there's over 2,000 fields available. These are all expandable categories where you can, again, search out information and then click and for the field selected, and it will produce the information that you want. We do provide some of our templates here to make the analysis even easier if you choose to go that route. And then you can obviously pick from years and quarters to display the information. A very recently added tool to QwickAnalytics is what we call industry credit research. Industry credit research was really developed in the wake of our CECL solution. It was a way, since we were relying and utilizing all of that call report information, that we could make it even more readily available to our users. So what we give you the ability to do over here in the research metrics columns is to pull in any of those same call report code fields, and you can look at any of the credit metrics for the portfolio from 30 to 89 days past due, all the way up through net charge-offs, as well as see those numbers either in percentages or in absolute dollars. You can display that on your screen along with other peer groups or other banks. You can also overlay FRED data to see if there's any type of correlation. So it just really, again, allows you to very easily mine all of your historical credit information that is available in the call report, and that is being, is really a power source, energy source for our CECL solution. As always, you can see the data on your screen or export it to a PDF or Excel. So, this is an effective way to support or document maybe some of your analysis in CECL, but more importantly, again, just on a regular basis, mine all of your historical credit information. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. Really, at the heart of QwickAnalytics is the ability to access data very easily so you can analyze data very easily. As I mentioned, you can export, straight to Excel or a PDF, the information from the report. So I think, again, we have tried to make the ability to communicate this information internally or externally to different audiences within the bank as efficient as possible. A second added feature this year is a tab we call side-by-side analysis. This again gives you the ability to quickly compare 6 banks or peer groups side by side. You can list them up across the top of the page. So rather than running a report, if you just quickly wanted to compare your quarterly numbers or your annual numbers to a bank, you can just pop that bank right up on your page and see that side by side. Again, illustrating the fact of making analysis much easier because we are aggregating the information for you in a much easier form and fashion. A final new report that we added is a page we call the Camels analysis page. Obviously, the Camels ratings are proprietary analysis. However, there are certainly metrics for everything other than management that we can trend line and show you how the bank is, comparing. Oftentimes you'll go through the review process and you'll wonder why a particular metric changed. So we highlight a lot of the metrics that might impact those, both on a 4-year basis and a quarterly basis, showing you in red or green if they're improving or not, and then showing you the trend line, which again, you can put your own internal policies are, all better designed to make sure, when we have third parties in, such as regulators, we're understanding where they're coming from, right? For instance, if they were to see capital numbers that were declining, that again may be strategically what you are intending to do, but they may, as a safety concern, have a question about it. Again, that's an area where we would say to you, you should not be surprised that that might have prompted a question, because if you were looking at it as through their lens, you would see that that might be certainly is something of interest, that they might inquire about. We will also show you how those numbers compare, both on a relative basis and again, over time within a peer group. So I know that's been a lot to cover. These types of introductions are always a little bit dangerous with QwickAnalytics. I apologize. I'm sure in many cases it may have felt like you were drinking from a fire hose. But I think the important thing that we wanted to communicate here to you today is that this is a tremendously comprehensive resource that has benefits both for management and boards of directors. We think there's a multitude of ways that banks and multiple people within the bank can access and utilize the tools in QwickAnalytics to address many different issues for the bank. Certainly for the boards of directors, it can be an effective way to communicate with them what's happening, both on an absolute basis and a relative basis to competitors in your market. There is no limit on the number of users a bank can have. So again, you may be only focused on a particular part, but there may be others within the bank who, again, they may find that same thing where there's just 1 or 2 areas that can be tremendously helpful, but collectively that can be of tremendous value to the bank. I think we're cognizant of the fact of a couple of things, right? Obviously, every bank's focused on performance. How do you drive performance? When we do analyses of top performing banks every year, the most correlating metric every time we do the analysis for banks is around efficiency. The most efficient banks are always typically the most successful banks. Understanding your performance, understanding and not overlooking areas where we can actually affect change is something that we think is tremendously and should be tremendously important to banks, right? The old axiom is you can't manage what you can't measure, right? So if you're not measuring something, it's hard to manage change within those types of metrics. We think QwickAnalytics really gives you a consistent and objective way to manage and measure those changes, not only for your bank, but for, situations where you may want to, whether it's an acquisition or again, just try to manage change within the bank. More importantly, there's no integration or necessary. This is all publicly available call report information that we pull down every night from the FDIC. I think anybody who's worked with QwickRate over the years, we have always strived to price our solutions affordably. We do not want them to be out of the reach of any community bank. And then finally, we've taken a lot of pride over the years in trying to develop these with a user focus, meaning we want this to be something that does not require an analyst within the bank to do for banks to utilize. We want any person within the bank, after a short time with the tool, to feel very comfortable and confident navigating and accessing the information that they might be seeking. We think this is, we think we've accomplished this, and so we'd certainly welcome the opportunity to show that to you. In addition, for any of you who've worked with QwickRate over the years, we have prided ourselves on our customer service team. They are there and available to address questions. That is the same the case with QwickAnalytics. Whether it's webinars, whether it's through articles, whether it's through chats, or what we've introduced for with CECL coffee talks, we have tried to strive in multiple ways to make sure we are addressing questions and issues that our users have. For CECL, that has meant doing a monthly webinar where it is solely focused on Q&A, so we can address any of the questions that our users have, not only about CECL and the standard itself, but also our tool and how they can get to the finish line and meet the new standard. So I want to certainly, Kevin is on the webinar today. Kevin was instrumental in developing the relationship with QwickAnalytics and the North Dakota Bankers Association. So one, I certainly wanted to thank him for that, but secondly, also share our his contact information with you. Should you have any questions or want to see your own data or learn more about QwickAnalytics or a CECL solver, Kevin's information is available here. Just as a reminder, we will send out a link probably tomorrow with a link to today's presentation, as well as a copy of the slide deck that we have. If you have a question or want to submit one now through the chat or Q&A, we certainly welcome those and entertain those. We'll give that a minute, but if not, if nothing comes through, on behalf of Kevin and myself, we certainly again, here we go. Oh, thank you very much, Ann, for the kind words. Yeah, we're very proud to be associated with the NDBA. We look forward to seeing you at future conferences and events. Hopefully we'll have more opportunities to present to you through webinars. And again, thank you all very much for your time today. And if Kevin and I can be of help, just please let us know, and we will look forward to the opportunity. Have a great day, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you.